like to wait until see it pop up on the YouTube. That's part of the problem with a lot of this. I don't know all the rules to what to do, right?
Yeah. Every time I do something, I'm like waiting for an email like your video has been censored.
Right. And so it to me, like for the mostly Disney group, I want everyone to share stuff to it. Like just get content on it, make it a place for everyone to go. But like this says, Lou's saying that it actually discussions. So maybe I've been oversharing, but he could have just told me that because I take criticism well. Because I don't know. Yeah. I shared something to Lou's thing to WDW one time, and the guy sent me like a thing saying, "Hey, thanks for sharing my post." At least that's how I read it. Thanks for sharing my post. When in reality, so I emailed him or I instant messaged him and said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. It was just such a cool." And then he was like, he's like, no, I'm glad you did it. I really appreciate it. Like I never share my stuff to Lou's thing, right? Like,
yeah.
Like trying not to, I don't advertise my site on his, I don't know how to do it. But he says the algorithm doesn't love posts with links that take people off the platform. So they don't always get seen by many people. Oh.
Good old algorithm.
So create your own post, he's saying. I see. All right. Hey, Karen, how are you doing? So glad you're here.
Hey, Karen.
And so, all right, well, let's get started. We're 4 minutes late, I guess, huh?
Oh.
All right. Hey, guys. Welcome to the Mostly Disney podcast. I'm Tater here, and my buddy Andrew is also with us.
Hello, everybody.
So we had a big guest for tonight, but he's under the weather. So we had to kind of last minute shift topics. We were going to talk about, is it still going in and out? Karen? I don't like that. We'll see how it goes. Okay. So we're going to talk about collecting Disney, but we've moved that back to next week with Moose Moran, who's also starting his own podcast. So I'm sure he'll want to talk about that. So in the last minutes of getting ready to do this, what's up, Caleb? We decided to talk about creating Epcot and what went on there with Walt getting that ready. So it's going to be a little helter-skelter, and I have one slide. I figured out how to do one slide. We'll see how well that works. So we all love Epcot, right? I mean, it's interesting to me, at least. My kids liked it at a very, very young age a lot more than I thought they would. Is it their favorite park? I'm not sure, but it's definitely on the don't miss each time list.
It's funny you say that. I told Addison what we were doing tonight, and she goes, "Epcot, my favorite park." And I was like, "Really? I thought Animal Kingdom was your favorite park." But okay.
Yeah, is it still bad, Karen? Because I'll hate to find out. It's
cutting a little in and out, man.
Is it? I wonder why. Let me make sure I haven't done it. I can always edit this part out later. Yeah, it's usually too good. Because it's usually too high, and I have to back it off because it clips a little bit. All right. Well, yeah, I see, and that's Karen's. I think Karen's. It's true. I do think if I only pick one park, it's usually Magic Kingdom. Although lately, it's usually been going to the resorts, but Epcot. And again, I think Magic Kingdom, if my kids could only pick one park, but even at a young age, they really, really loved going into Epcot. They loved walking around. They loved seeing everything. They loved the festivals, even at a young age. I mean, they used to love getting a gift card and buying the food. And we were always at Flower and Garden until like the last 2 years anyway. So it's interesting. But it wasn't what Walt was planning on doing by
not at all
stretch of the imagination. And so Epcot has a fascinating history in that I think Walt really wanted to be, a Henry Ford. He wanted to be a captain of industry. and he really wanted to build. I think when he was, I've read and I'm paraphrasing. So when I technically know that he really was thinking about his legacy when he was building and planning Epcot. Um, and so we know, with Disney, he didn't love the idea of how crammed in it was. Even at the time, it seemed like such a big spot. Um, but as we know now, it is surrounded completely by stuff that is not Disney.
Yeah.
Um, and so in February 2nd of 1967, uh, they're speaking to an audience of 900 people in Winter Park, Florida. And these are businessmen, politicians, all kinds of people, the press, and the first screening of the famous Epcot film, which of course was also one of the last things Walt did before he passed away, 2 months after that screening. And so with that, Epcot was maybe kind of lost, right? I mean, I think Roy said that there was no one who could have built it. And as I also recall, in addition to mentioning Kurt Russell's name on his deathbed, he was also looking up at the hospital ceiling tiles, drawing out the park.
Yep.
But he started, before that in 57, 10 years earlier, he hired Price to do a feasibility study for what he was calling City of the Arts. And it would be a combination of a shopping district, an art school, and then the idea of this planned community.
Progress City.
Progress City, exactly. And so model homes, visitors, and they were trying to figure out the location. So they originally tried to look at it in New York City. It was one of the first places that they looked at. And of course, Walt, interestingly, as I was researching this a little bit, and by researching, I mean reading something right before we started doing this podcast, he was kind of, and I'd never really thought of it, but a little Steve Jobsy in a way.
Yeah.
In that he really felt like he knew what was best for people, and like Steve Jobs, we need a mouse with no buttons because people don't want buttons, whether they do or not. And I'd never really thought about it, but I guess according to one of the things I read, that was part of the reason, or one of the reasons that maybe led up to the union strike, was that people didn't like only doing things Walt's way.
Yeah.
Kind of fascinating, right? Did not stop Walt at all.
No, not at all.
So
I think one thing I did some reading before, and I caught it again. So the whole Reedy Creek Improvement District was not built, but created so they could build this city of tomorrow. And it went further than that. It ran the parks for, golly, 50 years.
Right.
And then too recently, they changed it. But so it kind of had that central city that governed itself, that ran itself, but it ran the whole park, just not Epcot. And I thought that was always a little bit of his vision taken off.
Yeah, and I wonder how much that's really changed. Like because look, my friends, they all asked me about Disney when all that was going on, and I'm not very political, and so I certainly wasn't taking any sides except for Disney's and my own. I did do a bunch of reading and took all the emotion out of it, and really the biggest thing that I saw was that now the Florida Tourism Board, or whatever it's called, that they now have to adhere to Florida's building codes, which Disney's always exceeded.
Right.
Ever since
exactly
the beginning. So it really doesn't seem like, it changed much. And I think this is a good point, Karen. He set it up because the contractors, they weren't doing it the way they wanted to do. And I'm not an expert enough to speak on it, but just the way they built the water system to be as least intrusive and mimic what the natural waters would do.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know that you could get permits for that from a city.
No.
All right, so let's see. So they got rid of City of the Arts, that idea. It became Progress City. It actually became the Florida Project and Project X. No, Project Winter first. Project Winter and Project X. And City of the Arts kind of became Cal Arts, which makes sense. So he, hey, what's up, buddy? Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. Our buddy Matthew's here from Married to a Disney Addict. But yeah, I certainly haven't seen any external differences. Maybe they have more meetings. But he had a spot that he'd looked at in Palm Beach, Florida, and there was a billionaire business real estate developer who had wanted them to come in and build John D. MacArthur, no relation, or I don't know if he's not related. He wasn't General MacArthur, so he won't be back. But he was looking for developers, started quoting Walt Disney, and 6,000 acres, which Walt was very, very, very much attracted to. But I think that actually fell apart because Roy didn't get along with him. I'm not 100% sure about that, but that deal crumbled. So then they started looking, for other places, and that's when it really started taking shape into this city of tomorrow, this planned community that he wanted to do. And he was worried about crime. He was worried about cars. He was falling out of love with the automobile, which at one point in time had been, super futuristic. And now not so much. And then, all right, I'm going to show you my one slide, because one of the things that, even though Walt had no design theory at all, nothing, but he did kind of like this radial design, and it's not completely new. And I think it went through a couple of iterations. Some were a little wavier. Gesture if you're watching for wavy, more like a flower. But I think Paris is a radial city, isn't it? It might be.
Pretty sure it is.
And so it's not new. And as I understand it as well, hey Kara, I didn't even see you pop up on this one. That's weird, but she's on the Facebook. That the hub system for airlines was designed after they saw the hub system in Disneyland, which I think is fascinating. Just one more little thing that, because of Disneyland, we have in the real world, like Doritos
and churros.
So he liked having control. He wanted, and so a lot of the things that he wanted to do there, right, was he wanted to have, I know Monsanto was asking RCA, and he wanted to have these different companies come in, work, and employ most of the people living in the housing part of Epcot. But he also kind of realized, there were some voting issues if they lived there permanently. There was a lot that went on, and Walt really wanted to have complete control because he wanted to shift things out, right? If he wanted to put in a newfangled light bulb that had never existed, he didn't want the people to say, no, we like the old one. He wanted to be able to really make that work, which is kind of fascinating. I'm reading notes as we go. So the idea was you would come in, and I believe at the beginning of what you would have there, you would have some campgrounds and hotels at the bottom, right? At the bottom where Disney Springs. Oh, it is Disney Springs. That's right. I was going to say downtown Disney. But where Disney Springs is, you would come in there and have some campgrounds, 6 hotels, and then that's where the monorail would start, right?
Then the airport or the train, weren't they going to have a depot at the end of it? The train. I remember reading that they would have like their own, kind of like the Bright Line or was it Bright Line, Bright Star, whatever. They would have a train terminal and a airfield, and he would land there and they get on the people mover and go into the city.
Well, they have that one airfield, right? That's over close to Contemporary. Yeah. Have you ever seen that?
Mm-hmm.
You can just see it. But there definitely was. I wish I had the better slides. But they did have an airfield plan. I mean, it was going to be, legit a city.
Yeah, Magic Kingdom was supposed to be the only theme park. It was all supposed to be a city.
and on the bottom of his list. Like he really
Yeah.
didn't care
He didn't
as
want
much.
to. He didn't want to. Yeah.
But it's interesting because I have, my kids and my wife, and we'll always talk about what's going on in the world and how it works. And so I love to drive, and I know you like cars, so you'll probably want to hit me through the camera for saying this. But as much as I love driving, I'm ready for self-driving cars. I'm ready to stop.
Oh God, kill it.
I know. But here's why. Because I get so angry behind the wheel of the car, especially going to Disney on 95. Like again, I think I said it before, but the one year we took off and just took 5 days to get to Key West, but we took back roads as much as we could. It was so much better. Highways, I mean, it's a nightmare. And it's not cars that I dislike, it's the people in the cars.
Yes, very much.
My mom lives in Richmond, hour and a half from here, and I shoot up and down Interstate 64, and all I do is get behind someone in the left lane going 45 miles an hour. And I think, you know what? If I had this autonomous car, I wouldn't have to deal with it at all.
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing for us driving right now is trying to get off topic, but as soon as you get off the expressway, the new expressway on 4, it dumps you off at Volcano Bay, and you go a little bit further, it dead stops for the next 5 or 6 miles till you get to the bubble. It's always backed up right there, and I'm like, right. Why?
Well, and they have that, and then we have a bridge tunnel here, and so they're redoing it, and it's a huge construction project. But I mean, everyone gets to the tunnel, the exact same road you were just on 5 seconds ago, and slams on the brakes because there's walls around you. I get frustrated. I don't want to show. I'm starting to show how much of a jerk I am behind the wheel of a car. I'm a little impatient, but Disney grounds me and brings me back to reality. Yeah, that's true. So Kira's right. Driving at night, you are correct. And some of these like jaunts down I've done where I've had to go quick. I have driven at night, but then I'm tired. So I don't know. I think I just need to relax and kind of serenity prayer, accept the things I cannot change, and move on with my life because I'm going to Disney half the time on the road. Yeah. So trailer park, motel, campsites, all of that would be located outside of the swamp, and some of it referred to as wilderness camping. And then your first stop would be the Disney World Industrial Complex. And this was also radially, that's a hard word to say. A radial design, 1,000-acre complex and that's where Monsanto and RCA and all these companies would have their offices. And part of the idea was that they would trade. Secrets is a bad word, but as they're developing something, they could work together to develop something better. And people will be able to go in and take a look. But was that really going to happen? And there'd be a people mover there, which is funny that it's not at Disneyland anymore. There's interesting. There's little pieces of it you can see, but it is funny that they got rid of it because it's one of my favorite rides. It just seems hard to believe a park without the people mover.
If you go to Google, I just found this looking up stuff. To go to Google, they have the actual Walt Disney's master plan, like all his drawings, on yellow legal pads, how he wanted everything spaced out. It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, and I was reading somewhere that he was putting this stuff down on like napkins. And so
napkins and yellow legal pads is what it shows pictures of right here.
Yeah, and he would throw him down, and then what's his name? It's not Mark Davis. It's a different Davis who helped him do it. But he would like go dig in the trash can and pull stuff out, which is kind of wild. I do love that Epcot film. I watch that about twice a year.
Oh yeah,
I just love it so much. And I didn't realize. I mean, it changed quite a bit as he went along through it. Like he was and constantly making new ideas, according to what I read. So he was, putting things in, taking things out the whole time. So the other thing that the industrial complex would have would be a people mover there, Synergy. Yes, Karen, Synergy. And then people be able to take a tour of the different facilities and what was going on. But I think someone brought up later that no one's going to do that. Westinghouse was in there. And that, are they really going to let you in to see what they're doing? Any more than Disney will let you into certain areas of animation or Imagineering to see what's going on. They're not going to want to throw that in there.
And one thing that, looking at this map that they used, when you're looking at the entrance complex, they have a registration center that gets picked up by the monorail and go. I think that's where the transportation and ticket center comes in at, because if you look at that, that's the entrance to the park, and you got to go there, then you take the monorail in. So it's like some of his concepts went further just from Epcot, and it went into the theme park. Just looking at some of these different designs of the entrance to come into the whole complex.
Yeah, and do you think they went back and, because so Roy passed away right after Disney World was open, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I like to think that the Imagineers go back and look at what Walt was doing and try to find a way to, bring some of that back or use it as inspiration or I don't always love the idea of what would Walt do, because I don't think we know, and I think it would have changed 100 times. Like I wouldn't want to play with Walt like this, but he did, he was very much an American and very much pro business and very much, wanted everybody to work together and thought they could.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. So you would have those portals at the bottom with a couple of hotels, monorail in to look at the business. And then beyond that, you would have the residential center at the center of which the Cosmopolitan Hotel. So 30 stories, 600 rooms, highest point in the city. And then I think probably most of us, but you haven't. From there, it would go down to an indoor shopping space and some apartments. So you could kind of live in the city center. I was trying to say square, cross between square and center. I don't know what that means. And then from there, the people movers would go out to the green areas. I wish I had another slide. Where you'd have residential housing. And so people would get off at their stops and from there walk. And then the driveways would actually be behind the houses on the backside. And those would lead out back to the center, the eye of the storm there, and then underneath the city and out. And I think even below that, you had trucking. So deliveries and industrial travel would be at an even lower level than residential travel. And then above that, a monorail taking you in and out.
Yep. And we kind of got that with utilidors.
Right. Yeah. Oh, we just need utilidors for cars.
Right.
It's interesting, though. I didn't know this, that they had thought at the time it would have different countries. A British Square, an Asian Marketplace, South American Plaza. So kind of like a World's Fair idea at the inside of where the hotel was. I've never heard that before. I didn't know that. So that way vacationers would visit as opposed to just the city people. So other folks, passing through on their way to the parks would stop. That was one of the reasons I think New York, in addition to the bad weather, the idea was that most of the people there were on business travel and not leisure travel, and they needed leisure people. And then some commercial stuff in there, and no stoplights, Andrew. Such a dream.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But you figure
unless we got people movers and
right. Because
what do you need a stoplight for?
I've actually gotten to the point now where if I cannot use my car when I'm at Disney, I don't.
I don't. Nope.
And you love cars.
I know. I love the fact that I can go there, park it, I don't have to touch it for 7 days.
Yeah.
My wife and I were talking the other night. We're talking about somebody asked us why we like Disney so much, and she made the comment. She goes, "I wish I could take their business model and put it into my workforce. And I have 20 people, and they have several hundreds of thousands, a lot more than we do, and it works so flawlessly. And I'm sure they still have their bumps, but we never see it. But
right.
um,
Well, Karen can
I've
tell us.
actually been. What's that? Oh yeah,
Karen can
Karen
tell
can
us.
tell. We did the Disney training at the dealership, and it was a great 3-day program. But I'm sure it didn't get to the top of it. It never, didn't go real deep. I would love to go back and do it again.
No, I think people fear change. I mean, there's a real estate group called Agent of Excellence, and I love them. I've never paid the money to join because I don't think I need the network they offer, and I know I don't need the customer service training they offer. Like because I've been in the hospitality industry my whole life. I mean, everything I do in business is about taking care of my client before anything else, and that's what I want to be known for. I got a lovely letter from someone that was very Disney-esque in complimenting me, and that's exactly what I want. I'm a slow seller. I want people to think, gosh, that guy really cared, and that's how I feel 90% of the time when I'm on property, which is good.
One thing I've told my employees, with the Disney way, if somebody's in that 5-foot zone, at least say hello to them.
Right.
Don't walk past them and tell them thanks for walking on our property today. Anything I can do to help you? Just say hello.
Just start saying aloha to everyone, Andrew.
Yeah, that's it. I would love to do that.
Get all your folks to say aloha.
Aloha.
I liked that he also had AVAC, which was his trash automated vacuum collection. And so he got tired of seeing the trash trucks. And so the trash would just shoot down below ground and be gone. I mean, but somebody's got to live down there, right? Somebody's got to work down there. So it's not going to be amazing for everybody.
I've got a current map of the parks, and I've got the Epcot project map. And it's it's so close to what we have. You've got the golf courses around the hotels up around Bay Lake, and then Epcot's down in the middle. Fort Wilderness, they've got wilderness camping. It's very close to what the layout he wanted. And if you want to watch something that's kind of very similar to this, look at the Iron Man city. That is, and from the start video, it looks just like what Walt was talking about.
It's interesting. He also, during this time, he jumped around a lot, had a lot of projects, and did a lot with the World's Fair and other things that were going on. And I think at one point in time, he really thought that, had he lived, there would be 40, 50 years of projects just to keep them busy with what he had in 1966.
Yep.
But he did start slowing down a little bit, and it started dragging on a little bit. And again, I guess according to this, it was, most pressing, and I'm quoting here, was Walt's insistence that he have complete control over the city. And the team had created Reedy Creek Drainage District, giving them the powers to govern their land. And then according to the Florida legislator, to Reedy Creek Improvement District. But after that, of course, we know he passed away, which is tough. Because I'd give an awful lot to have just had 10 more years of his life, just to see what he would have done. And I think I didn't realize that I'd had this theory for a long time, from maybe before I started going to Disney on a regular basis. We'd driven up one night, and there'd been a really bad accident in Pennsylvania, and we got taken off the interstate and drove through Pennsylvania and New York on back roads through all these little villages. And that's what I think Epcot seems like to me. Is it seems like a village, right? Like, and then you think, okay, because I think in the research they found that 2/3 of the country lives east of the Mississippi. That's crazy, or at least at that time. It may have changed now. But if you look at a population map, it's all in these one areas, which is why, and I feel free to send your email to Andrew about this if I'm wrong, but overcrowding, not enough jobs, crime, lack of housing, homeless, mental health issues, all these things might be alleviated if you had, this was 20,000 people he wanted to put in here and then maybe grow it up to 100,000. But if you had cities of 100,000 spaced apart by high-speed monorails, you could almost live and work anywhere. An hour commute is nothing. People do it in New York City all the time. So you could live 200 miles away from the coastline, but work there and then go home to a really amazing city and have a real sense of community,
Well, I think you see that a lot now already. Like the neighborhood I live in, it's a giant neighborhood and it's got 4 or 5 neighborhoods inside of it. But then we have a grocery store, a Dock in the Box, a Starbucks, all these little outlying shops. Well, if you just had a golf cart and you work from home, you didn't have to go anywhere. You won't have to go anywhere.
Right.
We have a lot of that in Charleston with the neighborhoods. They're all self-contained neighborhoods now. So you got kind of his vision of the city and then everything branching out from there. Kind of in our neighborhood, the anchor grocery store and everything's in the middle and everything branches out from there.
Yeah. And that's what keeps honest people honest, right? Like when I lived in Key West, there was a lot of drunken debauchery, but there really wasn't a lot of crime. And usually the crime that we found was, from somebody else, somebody from out of town. But there's nowhere to go. If someone stole your bike, you're going to see them 2 days later. They're going to be right there. You're not going to be able to escape and hide. And so it's like, locks keep honest people honest is what I think my dad said to me one time.
Yep. My father said the same thing.
Yeah. Burglars can get in through your locks. You're not keeping anybody out there.
Right.
So, and that kind of ends, really what Epcot would have been for Walt, right? He had these plans, the city, he passed away, and I think the general consensus was there's just no one left who can do it, right? He was it.
If you look at it, they had back then, everything had a sponsor. You had UNICEF sponsored Small World, Pepsi sponsored stuff. So I would think Big Brother Roy was going, okay, little brother, I hear you. But who's going to pay for all this? Because that's a pretty big project to undertake. You're going to build a theme park, which is going to take an enormous amount of money. And then you want to build this city that encompasses the rest of the property. If you think about it, Epcot alone is 305 acres, if I remember correctly, which so it's twice the size of Magic Kingdom alone. But you're going to have this city and jobs, and you're going to have a municipality, and it's like, whoa, hold on, how's this going to work? So when he died, I think they really shelved it and said, okay, what can we put here? And you kind of get that, you have the neighborhoods in Epcot, and you had the Communicore areas, and it was always about progress. But I don't think you'll ever see his true vision because he was the only one that really knew it.
I love this, Tony. So right, I'd said it earlier, but that to me is just incredible. That he was sitting there. That's how much he was thinking about it. Something else I learned in this research, and maybe we can kind of cut Epcot there for now, and then we can do how Epcot became what it is in a second part. But this guy, and I do love Disney. This is going to sound wrong. I say this to my friends, and it seems to make sense to non-Disney people. As much as I love going down there and as much as I love the parks, I think I love the history and what Walt did more than even some of the Lady and the Tramp or Mary Poppins or these things. Like I just think he was so fascinating, and I wish I could find more. I need a new biography. I need something different. I feel like I've read everything I possibly can. And I just want a new Disney book. I need a recommendation. So if anybody has one, shoot it over. But this guy, I wonder what his home life was like a little bit. Not to get too personal, but it just seems like it's almost impossible to me to be this committed and work this hard and not have something suffer somewhere, right? Like apparently he didn't love the Uncle Walt personality. Like for that last film when he jumped on there, he did it, but he was worried that that's what his legacy would be, is being Uncle Walt, which isn't bad
deal.
No, not too bad at all. But I would have liked to have seen that city. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, how cool that would be. Can you imagine if it spread? Like if there were more Disney cities?
Yeah.
And they tried with Celebration a little bit, right? I mean, that seems to kind of fit into that vein. And I like Celebration. I would live there. I think it's pretty cool. We go over there every now and again just to wander around and look at the houses. Christmas time is really fun, even though they shut down their one street that was the official. But there's a video. I have a video of it. If you go back and search on but mostly Disney, it's on there.
Yeah. Who lives there? Adam the Woo lives there. He bought a house there.
He bought a house there, so he's always taking our little golf cart tours. Yeah. And now they've got this new storybook living going on. Mm-hmm. Have you read anything about that? There's two, I think.
Yeah.
One.
There's two, yeah.
And I'm interested to see, because that's kind of taking what you're saying, Andrew, the idea of taking this Disney mentality and pushing it out into the real world. Which has got to be hard to do.
Story living.
Because do people want that? That's the question. My daughter and I were talking about that. I love Key West. I love the tropics. I love, the Caribbean. But do people really want that at home? Like I find that a lot of times people want to go out and they want to be seen and they want to be dressed up and they want to, they want people to know where they are. And, I don't want to call, I'm going to say pretentious, but that's not exactly what I'm looking for. But I mean, they're going out for a reason and into a club or a night spot or whatever. And yet I would love to open like Fast Buck Freddy's in Aruba, truly no shirt, no shoes, no problem kind of place. Yeah. And in fact, their logo, their theme is "We cheat tourists and drunks." It's on a sign. I think it's on their T-shirt, right?
That's pretty cool,
right? And they're not kidding, like they do. And so I've always, because I've been in the bar industry a long time, would that work in my hometown, which is a beach town, but we don't really have anything like that.
Well, I'm looking on their website, and two areas are going is Rancho Mirage, California. And then the next one, I'm sure I've read it, but it's going to throw Pittsburgh, North Carolina, which is basically the mountains.
Yeah, I don't know where Pittsburgh is. We should, now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, I should have, no, that's Pittsburgh.
It's right outside Raleigh.
Okay, that makes sense. There's a lot of money down there. I mean, you've got that Research Triangle. So Raleigh's a great town, actually.
And if you look at this is funny, if you look at the concept art, it's got a big centralized spoke and everything branches off of it.
Well, I mean, why not?
Yeah, it works. Continue to use it.
And then, a builder comes in, they foot the bill, much like Monsanto or NBC or ABC did. And then you come in. I mean, that's where the money is, consulting, right? That's everybody's dream. They climb up the ladder and then get that secret bathroom key, and then they do consulting. And that's what you could have, just have the place run in a way that feels Disney-esque. Because I want to do that, right? I want to bring a little bit of Disney into everything I do. I want everyone who meets me to feel like something good happened when they were around me, both in my personal life and in my business life. Kira, next time you're down, you should rent a car or get somebody to drive you over and just go over to Celebration.
Walk around it. It's a pretty cool little city.
If I won the lottery, I swear I would reopen the movie theater. even if it made no
Yeah, I don't want to get that. That's a cool Art Deco movie theater.
It's really neat. I mean, something has to be able to be done with that. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
look, that's Disney putting their eggs in the basket and trying to make a community work, and it didn't for them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they sold it, right?
Yep.
It has the Asteria, the Disney difference. Make your life a little more magical. I'm in. Sign me up. How much do you need?
So we were on a bus back to Wilderness Lodge, and this guy took it. Where were we? I think we were at Hollywood Studios or Epcot, one or two. Anyways, he took a different route and ended up coming in from behind and went by Golden Oak. And I'm like, oh, just drop me off over here. My house is over here. But that community, even though it's a multi-million-dollar community, there are always people wanting to buy houses, and there's a waiting list to buy houses in there.
There are 2 for sale right now. I looked this morning actually because I'm looking for a client in Orlando, and so they were looking at a property, and I was checking to see if that was. I've got another agent working for me down there, but I looked. There's 2 in there. One's 16 million. One's 14 million.
That's all.
That's all. Just that.
My wife follows this YouTuber. I can't think of her name, but her foyer was so big. The 16 or 20 foot Jack Skellington they had for Halloween that you get at Home Depot.
Oh yeah.
She had it in the middle of her house. I'm like,
so I forget her name. I watched her and didn't like her.
Yeah, I didn't care for her either.
And then I watched a couple more episodes, and though I don't put her on a regular basis, she's kind of real. Like she's obviously doing okay, right? Her and her husband.
Yeah.
Because they go back and forth from Canada.
Yep.
But she goes to the dollar store and buys decorations. It's not like she's ordering it from Crate and Barrel. Like, I think that's kind of cool. So once I saw I was bored. There was nothing else on. I'd watched every other Disney video on the internet. I'd finished the internet, and she came on, and my wife and I watched her because she often is. I'm pulling up my shirt. She's not. Her shirt is often low, is what I'm trying to say in a family friendly way. And there's some beauty tips, and that does get a little lost on me. But she's like, okay, we're here in Golden Oak, and we're going to go out and decorate. And then she's at Dollar Tree and, Dollar General picking up little Halloween things. And I'm like, okay.
I have to watch it again then.
She kind of
like she was like, had it all decorated for Halloween. And she was getting her topiary Mickey ready for Halloween, and I was just like, oh my Lord, here we go.
She can be a little much. I mean, she's definitely like way far out over the edge, but she's pleasant, and yeah, I do think she's genuine. If nothing else, watch the video. Maybe we should just start a show where we advertise other people's social media, because that's kind of all we do. But she has an episode where they do a tour of her Golden Oak home. And they've got like up at the very, very top, like a little jungle.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
It's pretty cool. It's hard not to love
she that. She got the birds and all in there, yeah.
Yep. And then I think she just got I did bookmark the company that'll make a tiki mask like the Enchanted Tiki Room that talks. It's pretty neat.
That's pretty cool.
Yep. But right now I'm saving all my money to go back and forth from Disney. You got anything else exciting for us?
No, I'm good. Anytime we talk history of Disney, I'm down for it.
I know. It's so much better with the slides. Unless, of course, you're listening on Spotify, in which case it's much better for you without the slides. Because then I'm not stumbling back and forth trying to figure out how to get it to work. But I promise, I've got one. I mean, again, if you're watching the video, Progress City, right there. That's my Progress City. This is my Vietnam, I think, actually trying to figure it out. All right, well, cool. Well, next week we've got Moose on, weather and his throat and nasal passages permitting, and he is an avid collector and is really, really, really knowledgeable. So next week, Andrew and I will be able to sit back and hopefully let him tell us all about it. And let us know in preparation what you think collecting is. Is it just buying Disney stuff and shoving it up? Is it all this stuff I have back here on the wall? I guess can't really see, but is that collecting? Or is that my collection? Or is it just stuff? Is it just decoration? I don't know. Moose is going to tell us. Yeah, and then the last thing officially, I guess I want to do is let you know that I'm a part of MEI Mouse Fan Travel. So if you'd like to talk about planning a trip for a free, no obligation quote, head over to But Mostly Disney, and I've got a link on there now. I just put it up on my website where you can click and get my information, or just hit me up in the messages. Happy to talk anytime. And even if you don't need to book a trip and you want to just chat about going to Disney or a cruise or something like that, let me know. So I'm planning a trip to Jamaica right now. It's very exciting. And then I just booked someone at Universal, which I'll tell you was a good experience.
I'll tell you, we drove by Epic Universe. That place looks ridiculous.
They were.
They better come up with something good.
They open this summer, right?
Sometime in May.
Right, in May.
25th, I think.
So I think we're going to try to do that in the fall for a quick trip. Because the nice thing is the trip I booked, and I talked to some friends of mine because I don't know anything about it. I was very nervous going on the Wish because I didn't know how to do it. Disney, I got down. But if you stay at one of their higher end hotels, Portofino, Hard Rock, you automatically get free fast pass, basically, which is a couple $100 a person. And according to my Universal experts, you can do right now both parks in one day if you really wanted to. I think I'd still do May 22nd, Karen says.
Okay.
So I'm not sure I'd want to do that, but you could, right? Because that throws it in fast enough. So.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for joining us in the chat. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, everybody, for coming by.
Andrew, always a pleasure. And
yes,
we'll see you next week. Thanks a bunch.
See y'all later. Thanks for coming by.